Change Your Questions, Change Your Life, First Edition. 7 Powerful Tools for Life and Work. Merrilee Adams. Barrett Koller, 2004. Change Your Questions, Change Your Life Book Summary. What questions can you ask to be more productive? This self-help guide offers a new way to build your sense of perspective. Merrilee Adams found that she could generate positive changes in her behavior and productivity by changing the defensive questions that she previously asked in the face of adversity. Analyzing those protective questions showed her that she took setbacks and criticism too personally. Asking different questions enabled her to reframe each moment and create growth opportunities. Adams illustrates the problem-solving power of honest curiosity. Her question-thinking method generates practical ways to change your mind, literally. These are great ideas, however, their repetition within a fictional storyline may annoy some readers, while others may like this allegorical approach to telling the tale. The self-questioning techniques are easy to employ and will help you examine situations from different points of view, which can come in quite handy. We recommend adding this set of tools to your interpersonal communication toolkit. In this summary, you will learn how to use question-thinking principles and how to switch from a judger viewpoint to a more positive, inquiring method of solving problems. Takeaways. You routinely ask yourself questions in response to events in life, though you are generally unaware of them. Sometimes the questions you ask yourself lead to stagnation because you are using a judger mindset. Try to have a learner outlook instead. When you act as a judger, you blame others instead of trying to solve problems. Learners deal with problems positively. They ask open, information-gathering questions. In the learner mode, you use questions to probe your dilemma gently without bias. Learner questions lead to greater cooperation from others. Switcher queries help change your perspective from judgmental to inquisitive. Observe your own behavior more objectively to detour from the judger path and change to the learning mode. To some extent, you will never be entirely free of judgments, but you can minimize judger behavior in favor of learner patterns. On what basis are you making your judgments? What do those around you want and need? Is there a different way to look at your situation? Summary. Question thinking. Ben Knight took an executive position in a failing company that hired him to turn things around. It was a sink or swim situation. Within 2 weeks, he felt unqualified to do his job. When he offered to resign, his boss insisted that he work with an inquiring executive coach named Joseph. The coach introduced Ben to question thinking, a way of utilizing inquiry to understand problems better and to formulate progressive steps toward goals. Ben felt he needed answers, but Joseph suggested that what he really needed were questions. He made Ben realize that he, like most people, responded to situations with unconscious questions and statements that affected his mood and his ability to deal with problems. Putting the power of questions to work. Joseph illustrates the power of changing the questions you ask yourself with an example from history. The question, how do we get ourselves to water, drew the ancient hunters and gatherers. The age of farming and all subsequent human progress came about because of a different question. How do we get water to come to us? A world of questions is a world of possibility. Questions open our minds, connect us to each other, and shake outmoded paradigms. An event or emotion or any other stimulus that has an impact on you provokes a questioning response. Those questions can either be learner questions that put you on the road to positive solutions, or judger questions that help you find fault with others and lead you to stagnation. Every moment in life offers you the option to be open and inquiring, or closed and judgmental, though you rarely consciously even recognize that you are making a choice. Most people don't realize that they have any alternatives about their reactions at all. So, the first step is to be aware that you always are asking yourself questions. Next, observe the tone and intent behind your questions. Harsh questions that try to fix blame are judger questions. Those generated by genuine curiosity are learner questions. When you react strongly to something, take a moment to examine the questions you are asking yourself. This lays the necessary foundation for changing your questions. Although we can't always choose what happens to us, we can choose what we do with what happens. Questions are a powerful way to understand others and to shine a light on the true dimensions of any situation you encounter, rather than assuming that you have all the answers. When you ask other participants questions, you encourage them to enter a dialogue with you to find the truth of a situation or to solve a problem honestly. It's a great way to encourage creative thinking. Making positive choices. Consider the choice you make when you ask negative questions instead of positive, open-ended questions. This choice confronts you every moment, whether you are aware of it or not. One road leads to the judger pit, a place of stagnation from which it is difficult to escape. Notice how burdened and stressed your body feels when you ask yourself negative judgmental questions such as, "How could I be so stupid?" The judger path leads you nowhere. The most effective communication is about 20% telling and 80% asking. Most of us have it turned around, 80% telling and 20% asking. Positive, constructive questions lead you down the learner road, where you will find creative solutions to your personal and interpersonal problems. Notice your physical response to uplifting questions. When you ask yourself learner questions, your body will shift from clenched and angry to receptive and relaxed. Change the character of your internal inquiry by using your mental switching lane and asking yourself questions that enable you to change from a judging perspective to open-ended inquiry. Imagine yourself at a crossroads in either your personal or work life. Become a dispassionate onlooker and analyze your own behavior. Note that you have an opportunity every moment to decide whether to choose your questions or to react thoughtlessly. Now you can become aware of your choices in an emotionally uncharged way as a disinterested onlooker. From this vantage point, you can consciously decide to change from a judgmental mode to a learning mode. Do this by asking a switching question. For example, ask yourself whether there's a better way to view your situation. Instead of thinking, "Why is this person such a jerk?" you can switch your question and ask, "What is this person looking for?" When you change gears from judger to learner, the adjustment has a great byproduct. You will instantly feel calmer. When we are able to listen, the impact on others is amazing. When people feel accepted and not judged, they become much more forthcoming, cooperative, and creative. Joseph asked Ben to post a chart called a choice map addressing the choices between negative and positive questions on his refrigerator at home. When Ben talked to his wife, Grace, about the judger and learner mindsets, Grace told Ben that the information he had put on the fridge about asking learner questions had influenced her to rethink her judgment about a problem she had been having with a co-worker. She approached this colleague to ask for her perspective on how they could create a more productive relationship. Ben realized that Grace had a natural ability to diffuse a tense moment by asking a sincere question that got the person who was upset to stop and talk about his or her motivations. The discussion of how Grace used Ben's approach successfully became one of the most lively, open, and positive conversations the couple had shared in a while. Learner-judger questions. When you catch yourself asking questions, try to think of a corresponding positive alternative to a judgmental approach. Find a way to turn around condescending questions. When you use a judgmental perspective, whether focused on you or another person, it sets up antagonism and diminishes your chances of resolving problems. To make progress and maintain productive relationships, practice reframing your questions from judger to learner mode. If you can identify the questions that are leading you down the judger path, then you can switch them. The kinds of questions we ask ourselves can stimulate curiosity, inspire us, open us to new discoveries, and move us in the direction of success, or they can drive us into despair, inactivity, and failure. Ben told Joseph about a co-worker, Charles, whom he felt was deliberately undermining him. Joseph asked Ben to identify the questions in his mind when he contemplated Charles' behavior. Together they looked for ways to turn negative assumptions into probing questions that allowed Ben to find the truth behind the conflict. Empowering your observer. Switching your questions mode is possible only if you assume the perspective of an onlooker or observer, a neutral point of view that allows you to see yourself in any given situation without emotion. Wake up and become more aware of your own behaviors and assumptions. You can separate your reactions from anyone else's behavior. Until you do, you keep giving away your power. You are just a puppet. Anybody can pull your strings. Follow the ABCC choice process to shift from judging to learning mode. A. It starts with becoming aware. Are you becoming harsh and judgmental? B. Next, breathe. Step into a self-observant role rather than a self-judging mode. C. Curiosity will help you shift your attitude. Question the details of your situation so you can base your decisions on facts. C. From there, it's easy to choose. Once you are able to observe your own thinking and recognize the difference between learner and judger, you grab hold of the power of choice. Remember, no one can become entirely free of the judger mindset. Learn to tolerate it. It's unavoidable. But strive to improve your learner approach. Practice self-observation. Consciously take a few moments every day to look at yourself in a detached, objective way. Soon, this will become a habit that will help you during stressful moments when you are operating from a judger perspective. The next time the telephone rings, practice a simple exercise to strengthen this capacity. Listen to the phone ring and notice all your bodily reactions. Watch your conditioned responses. From this point of view, it's easier to take more measured and deliberate action. Switching questions. Once you are aware that your perceptions emanate from an intolerant place of judgment, devise questions that take you down the alternative learner's path. Switching to learner mode involves consciously catching yourself as a judger and asking questions that reveal your inner process. This will put you squarely on the road to learning. Ask questions such as, What are your judgments right now? What is empirical knowledge versus your beliefs about a situation? Is there a different way to view this? It's all too easy to overlook assumptions or defend them without question. Until we bring them to light, assumptions can sabotage our efforts to achieve our goals and deepest desires. Practice switching by remembering a negative situation that you changed to a positive experience. Recall the questions you asked yourself that helped you reverse your thinking. Also, it always helps to seek humor in adverse circumstances. Questioning assumptions. Base your actions on solid information. Often, your presumptions in a situation lead to erroneous judgments. Ben knew that his colleague Charles wanted his job, so Ben assumed that Charles did not want to help him accomplish the department's goals. In fact, he thought Charles was sabotaging those efforts by asking a lot of challenging questions. Actually, Charles was just trying to figure out what Ben wanted and needed him to do. Assumptions can undermine effective communication and make it difficult to build or maintain satisfying relationships. Often, dealing with the biggest obstacle leads to the greatest benefit. Before pivotal situations occur, develop the questions you want to use to inform your learning mindset. Don't drag the things that were true in the past into your evaluation of your present circumstance. Remain aware that your attitude affects others around you. Ben got stuck in traffic as he returned to his office. He was late for his appointments and fumed that someone had probably been short-sighted, ran out of gas and blocked the traffic. Ben was certain that whoever was holding up the traffic was selfish and thoughtless. But he found he had been wrong. Instead, a terrible accident had caused the holdup. As an ambulance wended its way through traffic to assist the injured, Ben felt bad. He knew he'd seen a powerful illustration of how mistaken some entrenched assumptions could be. Assumptions are invisible chains to the past that block freedom of choice and action for the future. Top 12 questions for change. Question thinking is a system of tools for transforming thinking, action, and results through skillful question asking, questions we ask ourselves as well as those we ask others. Ben had scheduled a meeting with Charles and he dreaded the encounter. Joseph gave Ben 12 questions to ask himself that might provoke him to change his outlook. The questions encouraged Ben to examine his entrenched beliefs about his situation, explore different perspectives, and try to understand Charles's needs, thoughts, and emotions. These questions are: what are your real wishes? Have you considered your options? Are you jumping to any conclusions? Are you aware of your own responsibilities? How else could you conceptualize this situation? Have you considered the other person's thoughts, emotions, needs, and wishes? Are you ignoring, skipping, or dodging any key information? Can you garner any useful lessons from these circumstances or from this person? What other questions should you pose to yourself or to anyone else? What sensible forward steps could you take? How can you create a result where everyone wins? What are all the conceivable outcomes? At their meeting, Ben surprised Charles by asking questions and remaining open to solving problems through inquiry. Charles surprised Ben by suggesting that they apply the question thinking method by brainstorming to address some of their team's problems. It's neither magic nor a miracle, it's a method, practical tools that take advantage of how humans work. Questions always direct our attention. New questions can redirect our attention. A brainstorming session that leads with questions can produce creative insights into your situation. First, define the problem you need to solve and identify the targets you want to achieve. Then formulate your questions and think about what further inquiries they might suggest. Ben and Charles threw out questions fast and furiously, and in the process they developed a new, open working relationship that was infinitely more productive. This translated into a more open and industrious working team. Not surprisingly, the question thinking method also improved Ben and Grace's marriage. Once Ben let go of the idea that he needed to have all the answers, he found it much easier to share his doubts with Grace, to verify whether or not what he assumed was true, and to share a learning path full of curiosity. Quotes: "A world of questions is a world of possibility. Questions open our minds, connect us to each other, and shake outmoded paradigms. Although we can't always choose what happens to us, we can choose what we do with what happens." The most effective communication is about 20% telling and 80% asking. Most of us have it turned around, 80% telling and 20% asking. When we are able to listen, the impact on others is amazing. When people feel accepted and not judged, they become much more forthcoming, cooperative, and creative. The kind of questions we ask ourselves can stimulate curiosity, inspire us, open us to new discoveries, and move us in the direction of success, or they can drive us into despair, inactivity, and failure. You can separate your reactions from anyone else's behavior. Until you do, you keep giving away your power. You are just a puppet. Anybody can pull your strings. Once you are able to observe your own thinking and recognize the difference between learner and judger, you grab hold of the power of choice. It's all too easy to overlook assumptions or defend them without question. Until we bring them to light, assumptions can sabotage our efforts to achieve our goals and deepest desires. Assumptions can undermine effective communication and make it difficult to build or maintain satisfying relationships. Assumptions are invisible chains to the past that block freedom of choice and action for the future. Question thinking is a system of tools for transforming thinking, action, and results through skillful question asking, questions we ask ourselves as well as those we ask others. It's neither magic nor a miracle, it's a method, practical tools that take advantage of how humans work. Questions always direct our attention. New questions can redirect our attention.